Ben, perhaps we should start with you. What made you want to become a counsellor?
Yes, that's interesting. I suppose, like a lot of people, when COVID hit and the first national lockdown happened, I had a lot of time to ponder what was happening in my life and what I wanted to happen in the remainder of my life. I'd already been a Samaritan for quite a lot of time and enjoyed giving support to people. So I think I was always curious to learn more about how it worked, and that's what started me on the role to be a counsellor. And once I started my training, realised I loved it, there was no looking back.
Thanks, Ben. It's great to hear you have a passion for it. How would you describe the way you work as a counsellor?
Yes, it doesn't feel like it should be a difficult question, but sometimes it does feel difficult. So I'm an integrative counsellor, which really means that I work with more than one style of counselling. And in my case, that's person centred, which is very common nowadays from the humanistic style of counselling, and psychodynamic. But I suppose person centered is really about empathy and understanding of what's going on in the current day for the client and exploring it with them, in a gentle way. And the psychodynamic element is really looking back through someone's life and key development stages, and what's happened to them to make them the person they are today, because obviously our own lives shape who we are, and then working with the client and help them get an understanding of why they might find certain things difficult, by looking at what's happening in the here and now, and maybe what's happened to them at points in the past, and recognizing patterns.
What can somebody expect from a first session with you?
Yeah, again, because I'm primarily person centered, it's really initially up to what the client brings to the first session. I'm not sure if I work slightly differently to some other people, and I like to explore a lot of what's been going on in people's lives and past in the first session. I also think that often that's a gentle way for a client to start, really, because we just, it feels more like a get to know. But I learn quite a lot about them and their lives without them really having to get into the really deep stuff, unless they feel able to jump, straight into something that's really troubling them in the moment. And then, as I said, because I'm person centered, I'm led by what feels important for them to talk
Ben,
about.
thanks. And what kind of things do clients come to see you about?
Yeah, it's really difficult to generalize because people come to me for all sorts of things. I mean, some of the probably less surprising ones are things like depression and anxiety, people struggling with neurodiversity. But it can be really varied. It can be relationship problems or a breakup, a, a loss, a major life change. I suppose often what happens is people come and see me not because something's happened once, but maybe because it feels like it's something that repeats in their life, and well, they're fed up of it happening and they want to stop it happening in future. I mean, I suppose if I was to put it a bit more succinctly, usually it's just that people aren't happy with some element of their life and they'd like to improve it, and it's really a way to explore how they can go about doing that. I mean, inevitably counselling is about change, and whether that's changing how a person behaves or what situations they're in, or just even how they think about things. But there's some change on some level.
Ben, excuse me for saying, but you don't look exactly as people might imagine a traditional therapist.
Yeah, that's quite funny. I'm not really sure exactly what a counsellor should look like, but I suppose, yeah, being slightly more alternative, maybe, and tattooed and a bit more casual, or some people might say scruffy, um, isn't the traditional, very professional looking counsellor. But again, I often find that a lot of my clients, they've chosen me because they want somebody who they can connect with and feels similar to them, I suppose. And again, I suppose just as an add-on to the last bit, even though I may not look, as professional as some people who don't wear a suit or look very formal, I still take counselling very very seriously. it's a passion of mine and it needs a lot of respect. So whilst I'm casual, I'm not casual about counselling.
And what if somebody worries that their problem isn't serious enough for counselling?
Yeah, I suppose that is an interesting point. Um, I don't think it needs to be. Doesn't really need to be serious. I mean, if something is affecting the quality of someone's life and they think they can live a better or happier life and they're exploring it in therapy is going to achieve that, then it's worth doing. I mean, I suppose it's not quite as common in the UK, but maybe in the US, people have counselling regularly throughout life. And being a counsellor myself, I have to have supervision to, you know, to keep professional integrity. But I find it so useful myself to have somebody to regularly check in with, and I think a lot of clients do, even if nothing major is going on in their life. It just gives them an area to offload and explore any challenges they've had recently.
Thanks. So I understand you do therapy in person by walk and talk, and also online therapy. Does online therapy feel different?
Yeah, I think again it's a very personal thing because for some people it's very convenient to have online therapy. If they've got busy lives and they haven't got the time to get out and get somewhere, or increasingly nowadays they work from people further afield in the UK where it just literally wouldn't be practical for them to get to me for a session. So it can be super helpful. And for some people, especially people, you know, say with a disability or severe anxiety, um, they find it easier to be in the safety of their home. And for me, it's as I've said, you know, already in this, because I'm person centered. It's really what works best for the client. I mean, I very rarely, but sometimes I work with people purely on the telephone because you know they're too nervous even on a video call. Even though I'd like to think I'm, you know, really not that intimidating. You know, we've got to factor all these kind of things in.
And what about walk and talk therapy?
Yeah, walk and talk therapy is something I really enjoy. I get, you know, quite a lot of people, probably less in the really hot weather actually, um, because I suppose for some people it's a bit less intense walking alongside somebody and having other things to look at. You know, typically I walk around Pitfall Park in Cheltenham and there's trees and wildlife. Um, it's a little bit less pressure, but it's still the same therapy. It's still the same things being explored, just usually while moving with fresh air. And another point, I suppose, for some people with busy lives, it's just that another chance to spend some time outside getting fresh air when they're conscious that they don't have enough time doing that.
And Ben, how important is it that you find the right counsellor for you?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have the right counsellor. It's something myself and my supervisor have discussed often is like, how do people know it's you're going to be the right counsellor for them? But you know, I often think that people kind of intuitively know. I think I could speak to that person. I'd feel comfortable with them, and that really is important because, as we've kind of said earlier in the interview, some of these things can be difficult. I mean, it takes a little bit of time to build up a relationship with any counsellor, but ultimately you have to know that you're going to feel comfortable spending time with them and talking about stuff that's, you know, really important to you.
Finally, Ben, what do you hope somebody gets from working with you?
Yeah, without being flippant, I'd like somebody to come away from counselling feeling a miraculous change and that their life's really improved and a lot more happiness and an ability to live a good life. Um, I mean, again, it depends on what's going on for the person and what they want to achieve out of counselling. It's not for me to say what they should achieve, and and we're all at different stages in our life, so we might make some progress now and return to further counselling later in life.
Thanks, Ben. That feels a nice point to end. I'll pop your contact details up and speak to you soon.
Thanks, lovely to speak to you too. Bye then.